Good afternoon, Fantasy Bay. Mike Williams here with another Week 10 game preview. And today we're going to be going over the Rams versus the Steelers. Let's get it started. So we got the over-under on this game at 43.5 points. The spread is -4 Rams. So the Rams were on bye last week, but coming before the bye, Jared Goff was on fire. 28 fantasy points. Last two games. 28 fantasy points, 26 fantasy points, playing fantastic. But one was against Atlanta, who allows the third most fantasy points to quarterbacks. The other one was Cincinnati, allowing the sixth most fantasy points to quarterbacks. So he's had some very plus matchups. San Francisco, he played in week 6, only got 2 fantasy points. Why? Because they're a great defense. So what I'm starting to notice is in a good matchup, Jared Goff is a start. I don't have him as a start this week. I have him as a sit because I have him as a quarterback 2. Going against the Steelers, even though they're using Mason Rudolph, that does not affect the defense very much apparently, because allowing the 24th most fantasy points to quarterbacks, that's not good. Only allowing 16 fantasy points a game, not good for Goff. King Goffrey is probably going to have himself a very mediocre game this week. Moving on to wide receivers, you know who's not going to have a mediocre game? Cooper Kupp, because he's an absolute monster, averaging 13.7 fantasy points this year, fourth most amongst all wide receivers. Last game he played, he had 220 yards. This man is a monster, and I think that he has a fine game. The Steelers don't scare me as much against the wide receiver, especially him, because he's going to be coming out of the slot. The Steelers allow the 12th most fantasy points to wide receivers at 23.6, and I think that Cooper Kupp gets a decent amount of those. He's going to play great. Brandon Cooks, I'm not expecting to play with his concussion protocol. He's had 2 concussions in the last couple weeks. It always takes at least a couple weeks for that player to get back. He's going to be riding the struggle bus. I don't think that he's going to be playing this week. Next, Robert Woods. I know Robert Woods hasn't been performing for you. 7 points, 13, 5 in the last 3 games. That's not great. He only had 2 receptions the last game, 5 receptions the game before that. That being said, with Brandon Cooks out, I do believe that they're going to have to throw the ball to him. So I think that he is going to be a flex play this week. Todd Gurley. Last 2 games, very mediocre. 12 fantasy points, 10 fantasy points, only 40 yards a game. Saved you with a touchdown in week 7. I'm nervous about Todd Gurley. He's had a touchdown the last 2 weeks, yes, but man, 40 yards is not going to get it done. Not involved in the receiving game either. It's Todd Gurley is not performing and is not as available as we would have hoped. He's on the field a decent amount of time, 71% of the time, which is 9th in the NFL. That's great. I need you to use him more. His utilization is only 32%. That's like 50th in the league on running backs. That's terrible. We need to get him more involved when he's on the field. Throw the ball to him. Give him some dump-off passes so he can get some yards after the catch. Very talented. Come on, Sean McVay. Utilize your running back. Darrell Henderson, man, I'm not trying to start him, but I do think he's a great handcuff for Todd Gurley. Gerald Everett. I like Gerald Everett. I've been banging the drum for Gerald Everett for a little bit now. He's had a couple bad games in the last 3 weeks. 2 points, 15 points, 3 points. But I do think that he has a decent game this week. The opponent is allowing the 9th most fantasy points to tight ends at 8.8. I like that. Very solid. I think that he eclipses that. Let's get down to the defense. I think that the Rams defense does still have a decent game, even though the Steelers are only allowing 5.3 points to defenses. I do think that there's going to be at least a couple picks. Jalen Ramsey is back there, and there should be some sacks as well from Aaron Donald up front. So I like the defense in this game. All right, let's get to Mason Rudolph. I'm not starting him. Let's just be clear with that. So next, Juju Smith-Schuster. I think it's it's sad. It's sad what happened to Juju, man. Real sad what happened to Juju with Ben Roethlisberger going down, and it really derailed his season, and that's really disappointing because I was hoping that Juju had a good year this year, but clearly with clearly with Ben Roethlisberger going out, he is not the same player. 4 fantasy points last week. That never would have happened with Ben Roethlisberger in the lineup. So I think that you have to temper your expectations for Juju Smith-Schuster, and moving forward, he is going to be a wide receiver too. Not touching any of the other wide receivers. We get to... So James Conner. We're going to talk about running backs now. James Conner. I really think that he's talented, but like I said last week, he gets dinged up so much. You're always worried about whether or not he's going to be able to play, and Jalen Samuels stepped up and played well. He only had 8 rushing attempts for 10 yards, but he had 13 receptions for 73 yards. If you're going to throw it to a running back that many times, I mean, you're just dumping it off. I'm perfectly fine with that. Keep on dumping it off. The Rams are middle of the pack against the running back. I think Jalen Samuel could be a flex play this week. And I'm not trying to start Vance McDonald, but I do think that he is an acceptable start this week. The Rams are 12th against the tight end, allowing 8.2 points. So I think that he is a startable asset. I'm just not actually trying to start him, but he could always get a touchdown. Alrighty, that is going to do it for the Steelers versus the Rams. If you have any questions, hit me up. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out my social media down below. And if you have any questions, again, hit me up. More than happy to answer your questions. Don't forget to check out the rest of my videos for the Week 10 preview. And I also have a trade video out now, too, called The Art of the Trade. So check it out. And Fantasy Bay, I'm out.